it's Lee from ColouringQueen.net and I want to show you flower fairies. This is a Japanese colouring book that I purchased. You can see it's beautifully coloured on the front there. It's slightly bigger than A4 sized. It's about an inch bigger than A4. Now the first pages have some beautiful coloured illustrations in them. It's virtually like looking at wrapping paper. So these gorgeous fairies, this lovely backdrop of pink. And then we've got the line art for that, so you can look at the inspirational image and then you can look at the line art. And these aren't quite grayscale, but they've been greyed and shaded, so help you get that lovely effect. And these are fairies they're so wispy and dainty. They remind me of, the fairies from your childhood, from stories. And as the name implies, these are flower fairies, so there's going to be a lot of flowers in this book. And when we're looking at the flowers and the way they've been coloured, it's really helpful to have these inspirational images just to look at the shading and the highlights on the flowers. So it's great the way they've laid it out so that you can look at the picture and then look at the line art. And this greying that they've done, which is not as dark as most grayscale, is super helpful with the shadowing. The only problem is, of course, is that the line art does run into the spine, and it does make it a little bit difficult to colour in smaller details and tricky areas. And if I couldn't push this book down with further use of it, I think I would actually be tempted to cut the spine on it and remove it, just to make it easier to colour in these bits, because you've got really tiny things like this in the spine. It's going to be very tricky to get in that area. The binding on this one is really quite stiff at the moment, so hopefully it'll loosen up, but if not, I might be tempted to either undo the binding, sort of take a hairdryer to it and dissolve the glue on it, or just take it to Officeworks or Staples in the US and have them cut the binding off. Now there is, of course, a risk that they'll muck it up, so I'd probably prefer to do it myself in case they did. But there's also a risk that you may lose some image as well. And I love how they've done these coloured images in such different palettes, like this autumn colour palette here, and we've had the pretty pastels. And because these fairies are quite delicate and painterly looking, the line art isn't as sharp as in most books. It's quite soft and quite fine. So if you did have a visual impairment, you might experience some difficulty. You might need to put on the magnifying lamp to see some of your fairies, because they're not as clear as in other colouring books that have a stark black outline. These are all outlined in a grey. So here we've got the different types of fairies. Because Japanese have put it in English, so we can see that the rose fairy which is this one, is inspired by these lovely roses. Apple Blossom Fairy, inspired by the apple blossoms. Our Herb Suspense Fairy, Blackthorn Fairy, Rose Bay Fairy, and our Shirley Poppy Fairy. So that's really sort of helpful if you want to look up the flowers and colour your fairy in the same sorts of colours, but you can of course colour your fairy however you want. Now at the back we've got some postcards. So these ones you can cut out the image that's already coloured or use it as inspiration for your colouring. So you can cut those ones out and post them. And unusually they're actually coloured on the back. So we've got this lovely pretty green here and this lovely pink. Usually our postcards are white on the back. Now those same postcards you can colour in the line art for them as well. And although they say postcards, they're not postcard paper. The paper is a medium. It's a white medium quality. So these are some little message cards. And then we've got this lovely little mini poster here. And another lovely mini poster as well. But no line art for the mini poster. So they're just things that you can cut out and keep for yourself, but there's no line art that adjoins it. So there we have it, Flower Fairies. Gorgeous colouring book. I wish the spine folded down a little bit easier, or I was a little bit stronger. Until next time, happy colouring.